This is a Proxon foam cutter, and I'm going to need a lot of tiles for what I'm going to do. I'm making the tiles a little bit exaggerated. I know they're supposed to be 1 inch, but just for the sake of placement, and because monsters and figures have jutted weapons and no bases are consistent really, I want to make them 1.5 inches. So that's how I'm going to cut them, and I'm just going to need a lot of bases, and that's what this is a fast way of doing it, and I feel for you if you don't have one, but I understand as well. I've set the Proxon to about 1/4 inch thick, and just going to slice these up. That's about how thick the tile pieces I want, or roughly. And to be honest with you, that's just about 1/4 inch in 4 pieces. The last trim might be a little wonky, and I just screwed up on the very beginning of that, and that's fine. I don't care if it's a little off. Like I said, this last piece is going to be a little bit weird, but that's okay. This is just a jig that I made for my Proxon, just so I can make bricks easier. And I have notches out of it for different sizes. And I had to make one for this because I've never made bricks this size. And it just allows my wire to go into the brick, not into the brick, into the wood, so it doesn't ruin my wire and I don't bust a wire. And I get a cleaner cut. And all I did is glued a ball from the craft store onto a piece of masonite. Pretty easy. This is a technique that I've used quite a bit, and I actually learned it from Black Magic Craft, Jeremy I believe his name. And just throw a bunch of bricks in with some rocks. Whoops, and they're falling on the floor because there's so many of them. And more are falling on the floor. Anyway, that should do it. And then just clamp it up. You can use whatever container you want. And just shake the crap out of it. I'm gonna shake it and I'll come back. And when it's all done, you just open it up, pull your bricks out, and they're dented, hopefully, and then just you can put them in some type of container. You probably will have some that will get destroyed or broken, which is fine. It's just, well, to me it's fine, I don't really care. Just pick them out, and if I find one that's destroyed, like this one right here, I'll try to find the other piece because then it has a crack in it, and see if it's salvageable. But for the most part, they're pretty good. This is black foam core, and I am just cutting out a typical size room that is generated when I use a map generator for a dungeon. This is one of the more common size rooms. So I'm just going to cut this out, and this will be the base to give it structure. And I will say this, that is a freaking awkward angle. And I screwed up right there, but it doesn't matter. Be free, my child. Well, apparently I can't add because I'm 1 inch short. So I need to cut this piece. Moral of the story, measure before you cut. I've drawn the grid on here just to make it so I can kind of keep things straight as I'm going. But now I'm just gonna not do anything there because that's not gonna come out because I haven't cut it yet. Watch out! Just gonna smear some glue in the middle of these to get us started. This is turbo tacky glue, so it dries fast. I don't want to go too far. Oh, and remember how I said I was going to throw those skinny ones away? I kept them so I could have variation in my tiles. Thought that'd be kind of cool. Just check and see how things line up, so they're kind of relatively close. There's a little bit of gaps, it's fine, but I want to make sure this line right here is pretty close. Now that's all dry, I want it a little bit rougher than the rocks made it, so I'm just going to get some tin foil that's in a ball and just roll it around. This is a technique I learned a long time ago. I can't remember where I learned it from. If it's from an old diorama or what it was. Or, I don't know. Anyway, so what you want to do is just want to pick some of it off, especially where it's changing elevation, changing layers, just to kind of rough it up a little bit more. This is really fine playground sand. Now that I'm just going to sprinkle on here so it goes in some of the cracks. And then just use a brush just to spread it around. Try to get in the majority of the cracks. Doesn't matter if it's in all of them. Also try to make sure you get the edges, just so, because the edges, the sand tends to fall out on the edges. It won't be perfect, but then again, yeah, it's serving its purpose. This is one of those projects that is meant to me, for me anyway, is meant to be mass produced. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I want to get it just good enough. This is a 99% alcohol, and now I'm just going to spray this down, and I need more alcohol in my bottle. I'm just getting it wet to where the glue will adhere to a little bit better. And then this is 1 part Mod Podge, 3 parts water, and 1 drop dish soap. And this is my glue solution. And I think the nozzle is dried. Okay, it's supposed to spray, so this is lame. I'm just going to solve the problem by dabbing my brush and moving the glue so it doesn't pull up, and just kind of makes it adhere a little bit better. It's a longer process, but what do you do? Invest in better spray balls. This will also help the foam to harden up so it's not as soft when you play with it, but once again, it's a quick and easy, cheap project, so it's not that big of a deal. This is terracotta. I just kind of want to do something different other than just like the gray stone. I mean, I'll end up having grays in it, but I want the base to be a different color just to give it more depth and just not all be grays or blacks. Who knows, maybe by the time I'm done, this will all be drowned out anyway. But this is the color I'm going to start with. I'm going to do a wash on this. Just use terracotta again and just put some in this cup and put some black in it. Put some water. Mix it up with my trusty brush. It's too thick, so I want to, well, let me see. Just dip my brush in some water just to see. Yeah, I want it a little bit runnier. I couldn't have guessed that wash even if I tried. I've never used all my wash like that. Got lucky. This color is charcoal, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and dry brush some charcoal on here and see what it looks like. Let's kind of dull things up a little bit. This is Drucci Violet, and I'm just going to go, it's a GW shade. And I'm going to go through and primarily just do the recessed ones. I've already done a few of them. Just going to go through and do this just to give it more depth and kind of single these out. I may do more, but this is what I'm going to do for now. See how it looks. I want to have it on the inside as much as possible. I don't really want it on the upper tiles. I went through and outlined it with Antonio Camo shade. I know it's more work than a rapid mass production, but it was bugging me that the lines weren't darker. But I didn't want a dark wash, so it's kind of a conflict, and so it is what it is, but it didn't take me that long to do it with a brush. This is Maple Sugar Tan, just a light tan color. I'm just gonna go very light dry brush on this. I don't want a heavy dry brush, and this will probably be my final coat. And the problem with a wide brush like this is you get brush strokes a lot, so I try to use the flat side of my brush, and then as paint is removed, I'll press harder. I'm using some tacky glue, and this is just a really fine flock. I'm gonna apply it with this tool, it's my dental tool, or just something that's really fine. So I don't want a lot of flock on here. And what I think I'm gonna do is after I apply it, since it's such a bright green, I just might just dull it down with some paint, like a wash or something like that, just to kind of dull it down a little bit. See how it goes. I don't want a lot on here. Just put that on there, tap it in. I did an experiment right there. I think if I just have sparing stuff here and there and don't overwhelm the board, I think it'll be fine. Just to kind of give it like it's a dungeon growth type situation. Kind of debated at first, but I think just something organic will help it out more. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. But I'm in need of D&D stuff. I haven't played D&D for over 30 years. I'm just getting back into it. So there's things as we start to play that I realize I don't like drawing on a map for the dungeon. I used to use dominoes when I was a kid. We'd set up dominoes and that was fine. But now I have access to be able to do different things, so I'm going to make dungeon tiles. I made them a little bit bigger just because, like I said before, the size of miniatures, they're all different sizes and bases and so on and so forth. The other thing I did too on this piece is you'll probably notice if you go back and look at the pictures, and by the way, you can find those pictures on Instagram. We do have an account there that we post all the pictures and things like that. But if you go back, you'll notice some tiles might be a little bit lighter on there, and that's because I went back and with that final dry brush, well, the final dry brush I show in the video, but I went back and I actually did a little bit more just to lighten up a tile here, lighten up there, just to kind of give that non-solid or more variation. I use variation a lot, but I just didn't want that consistency across the board. I wanted some pockets here and there that had different colors in them. The one thing I didn't show on the video is I went back with a light gray, a really light gray, and I barely hit some high rocks here and there just to kind of break it up and just give it a little bit more pop in some areas. And that's pretty much what I did there. But if you like this video, please share it, get it out there so the channel can grow. Give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. Be more than happy to help you out. We do have a Patreon page if you're willing to support us there. I'd like to give it's been a long time since I've given the taco of the day, but I'd like to give the taco of the day to my son, Ethan, for getting me back into D&D. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's very enjoyable to play with my children and some friends. And there's actually more people that are wanting to start playing, so we might actually have 2 D&D groups in the future, but not sure. But it's not like I don't have enough room downstairs to do that kind of stuff, so it's like, but heaven forbid. But there's more people who want to come over and check it out that are friends of ours, and we'll see how that rolls. But playing with 6 characters right now, because I'm so new at it, because when I played a long time ago, trust me, the system was totally different. And plus I got into a game called Iron Crown Enterprises, and I really liked that methodology, and it was a lot more detailed, a lot more complex than the current D&D 5e is. I do like 5e, I do like the simplistic nature of it as far as compared to what I used to play. Like I said, I haven't been playing for a while, so I didn't go through all the transitions of all the different rules. So like I said, I'm just barely getting back into it, but I played a lot when I was younger. And we used to have, when I would play, we would have a 4x16 board, and it would just be full of mountains and trees and towns and everything else. And you didn't play on maps, you just played on that board. And so as a DM, we would set up areas of interest and things like that, and that's where people would go because they'd see, oh yeah, you set that up there, and they would go and venture off there. But that's just how we used to do it back then. Now it's a lot different. I had my daughter draw up my maps for me. She drew up a lot of the things, whenever I need something, a town or whatever, she'll draw those up for me. And you can go back on our Instagram page and see those drawings. I believe I posted them there. If not, I'll go back and check and look. But she did a lot of really cool things. But one of the things I also did too is she drew the map twice for me. She drew one that the characters or the players now have in their possession, but I also have a map too that's actually in graph paper, and they're virtually identical. And that way I know distances, but they don't know distances because things in maps usually are disproportionate, because you have like a castle that looks like it's, if it was on the map it'd be, 2-3 miles high, but it's not. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm having a good time doing this. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, like I said, and that's pretty much it. You have a wonderful evening. Remember remember what my mother used to always say. Anyone can do art. I believe that. You have a good night, and hope everything's treating you well. Hope your hobby is good, and hope you're just having a good time. Anyway, ciao.